Alrighty, so you want to get better at Lethal League Blaze. Well, that's great news, and you've come to the right place because I have many hours in this game and compete in tournaments regularly. So hopefully, I can point you in the right direction. This isn't going to go into character specifics, just general things I see top players doing that the average Joe doesn't. And if you want character specifics, I'm linking this amazing guide written by Bitnix and several other top players. Also, before we get into the in-depth juicy stuff, we're going to do a speed round of all the basics you should do and learn before the more advanced talk. Are you ready? Let's go! First off, make sure you're comfortable with all the characters' angles and specials on each stage. Notice how Raptor's down angle pattern changes slightly based on stage. Once you get that figured out, find out which character you like playing the most so you can focus on improving with that character, allowing you to get even more comfortable with their angles and combos. If you're having trouble making a decision, I recently made a video on it. This is kinda cliche, but join tournaments in the Reptile Hideout TR Discord by clicking on the pinned messages in Lethal League Blaze chat. Don't be afraid of losing to highly skilled players. Playing against players that are better than you teaches you what and what not to do, and even the best players in the world lost 0-2 in their first tourney. Finally, learn how to tap charge. I also made a video on that, which I'll link as well. It'll help your defense immensely. One thing that plenty of newer players gravitate towards is smashing. And for good reason. It has a giant hitbox and speeds the ball up quite well, which is fun for everybody. However, at a higher level of play, smashing can lead to lost matches very quickly. When you smash the ball, if you don't have meter, the ball will always go in a set direction. This allows your opponent to easily catch the ball, since the smash will create a set pattern that many players are familiar with. At higher speeds, it's better to do a neutral swing, since your opponent will then have to defend against multiple angle choices at once. Now that being said, smashing isn't a bad option all the time, you just can't do it all the time. In fact, it's probably one of the best options in the game when you're faced with one of these scenarios. You have to make a hard out of position catch, comboing it with your character's special, or comboing it with parry. If you're out of position, due to the sheer size of it, smashing actually isn't that bad of an idea. Staying alive longer than your opponent is how you win, and note that if you smash the ball, it's probably going to result in you giving up ball control, so be a little wary. Comboing your character's smash and special can be an amazing idea for a quick mix-up as well, especially those with instant specials. Your character's special is designed to change the pace of the game in your favor. Just make sure not to be too obvious with it, since most specials can be stolen by your opponent if you're not careful. Now for the infamous smash parry. Smash parrying is one of the best ways to secure a kill if you're near your opponent, or to steal the ball back. Once again though, if you're not thinking about when to, smash parrying can become very telegraphed to your opponent, allowing them to parry you and score themselves a stock. It's one of the best risk-reward options in Lethal League. Just make sure not to abuse it too much, or else you'll find yourself going nowhere. This section is going to cover where to position against certain characters when they've caught the ball in a neutral swing. We're not going to be going over tap charge coverage for each character, since I covered that in my tap charging video. Switch will be the defender, except in the switch example, where it will be toxic. Also, please note that Bunt's hitbox is slightly bigger than swings, meaning for these examples, switches and toxic's red box would be slightly taller. Alright, without any further ado, let's go. Back bunting is the best option for Raptor's basic scenarios. Note in the scenario, if the ball is caught higher up and Raptor's grounded, you will not need to jump. Depending on speed, you'll be able to bunt twice in order to cover up angle, or hold swing. Jumping to cover is probably the best option, but if switch does a straight, try to land with a spike at higher speeds. Best place for Candyman is right out of parry range in both scenarios. Back bunting is the best option. When she's grounded, like Candyman. If Sonata's any higher than this, you're basically gonna have to tap charge unless you want to risk it. If Latch is in the air, bunting is completely safe. If Latch is grounded, back bunting is the better option. Back bunting here is the best option. Depending on speed, you can bunt twice or hold swing. Normally, bunting Jet is completely safe when she's grounded. Back bunting Jet is safe when she's airborne. For both Doombox scenarios, you have to be airborne for proper coverage. Nitro is very similar to Sonata. If nitro is any higher than this, tapping is probably your best option if you're grounded. Note that if grid catches the ball closer to the ground, you do not have to jump. Toxic is very similar to Raptor in both scenarios. Dust on the ground is like Candyman. Dust in the air is also like Candyman. In the background of this section, I will be playing examples of how to improve your ball control. Basic training videos essentially. Ball control allows you to change your own position in order to create new threats or keep your adversaries away, all the while leaving your opponent wary to approach and unable to predict your next move. It can also be used to incite a specific reaction out of your opponent. Ball control is essential to most playstyles. The ability to not drop the ball after a single bunt or chain of hits is essential. On top of that, throwing away the ball in exchange for a weak attack is also a bad move. In order to keep ball control, you have to be comfortable with your character's movement, especially jump height, floatiness, and fastfall speed. You should learn how to control the ball without losing or dropping it. Start with a series of bunts, like in these videos, then move on to bunts and hits, and finally, with the threat of a real opponent. If you didn't know already, you can easily do a neutral hit in the air by pressing up when you press swing, and this is invaluable as it will stop you from smashing all the time. You don't necessarily have to be fast, though it helps, but you have to make sure you know when you can get another bunt or hit in before your opponent will reach you. Otherwise, you will get stolen, hit, or both. You should also just go into training mode and play around with the ball. Try to stay on one side of the map and hit the ball back and forth to yourself without losing control. Once you got that figured out, all that's left is to go into matches and learn what works. This is going to be one of the shorter sections, but I was asked to cover it, so I will. First off, note that just because people have quote-unquote bad matchups, doesn't mean they're impossible to win at all. The worst matchups in the game are probably only 7-3, being Sonata vs Nitro, and Doombox vs Raptor. The rest of the bad matchups are comparable to 6-4 matchups in other fighting games, so not at all impossible. Knowing when to swing or bunt is one of the most crucial things to get a grip on when playing high-level Blaze, but at the same time it's the most difficult to explain since it changes the most throughout the match. Generally speaking, swinging, smashing, and parrying the ball at low speeds, if your opponent is in close proximity, is the safest thing to do if you're the one closer to the ball, especially if your opponent shows no aggressive sign of grabbing. At higher speeds, bunts become a safer and more viable option, because it gives you infinitely more control over the ball. However, bunting can lead to the worst scenarios in the game if messed up even slightly, so listen up. When you bunt, it becomes anybody's ball. Your opponent will not take damage by a bunted ball and can easily steal it just by hitting their swing button. So, in certain scenarios, if your opponent likes to play aggressive, they will attempt to steal your bunted ball with a smash parry, and I can't tell you how many times I've scored a stock by doing this. If you know this though, you can counter by replacing your bunt with an instant parry, leading your opponent to then swing into certain death. Generally speaking, defending against bunt steals doesn't happen until you reach higher levels of tournament play, but you can implement stealing bunts with parries at any level of play with great efficiency. It is certainly one of the more complex metagames about Blaze. Alright, this video is coming to an end. I hope to have helped you on your journey to becoming a better Blaze player. And once again, before I close it out, if you have any more questions, please check out Bitnix's How to Be an Improver 202. It is an amazing guide for players of all skill levels. And also thank you to CT for the great contributions made to this video. Alright, that's it from me. See you later.